up, everybody? Welcome to the 45th episode of our Nintendo podcast, Directly to You. I'm joined by Parker.
Hello.
Say hello, Parker.
Hi.
If you enjoy this show, you can support it by becoming a member on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/Fanatics4, or you can join in on Anchor's listener support program by going to anchor.fm/directly-to-u and contribute anywhere from $1 to $10. Doing so will get you most of the perks from our member status. Like, you'll get supporter only access on our Discord. The only thing that we can't really give you is the exclusive emotes from YouTube and the sponsored badge. So if you are willing to give us around the $5 mark, just go head over to YouTube and, you know, smack that join button. But aside from that, I do also want to say we're going to talk about some Nintendo games that Nintendo sent me. So I am required to say, product provided by Nintendo. And with that out of the way, let's just jump into it.
Yeah, let's do it. Actually, yeah, do you want to talk about that first? I'm just curious because I haven't really heard a whole lot about it besides reviews. But before going into the new stuff, yeah, what are your thoughts on New Super Mario Bros. U Deluxe so far today?
Okay, so I talked about in my last video, and I think we talked about it a little bit on the last episode of this podcast, that I was not a super big fan of the new Super Mario Bros. Formula. I think I appreciate it more now, just as a thing that it's like we're super removed from it. Like, at the time, we were getting like a new Super Mario Bros. Game like every other year, if not every year. The last game that we got, I think, was like in like 2013 or something like that. 2013, 2014, as far as like a dedicated new Super Mario Bros. Game. So it's been a long time since I've played that game, and I've never dipped into the handheld side of it that much. Like, I played the first one. I don't think I ever owned it, the DS version. Yeah. And I completely skipped the second game because that was like right smack dab in the middle of my fatigue with this series.
The second one being the one on Wii.
No.
The second handheld.
The second one, yeah, yes. The second handheld game. So with this, something that I'm saying early on is like, this is a handheld game for me. I'm not docking this. There's no real purpose of doing that. So I'm enjoying it on that end because it's like something that I feel
AJ,
like,
it's like the most graphically enhanced game
of
all the times. What are you talking? Totally kidding.
You can't even see the detail in Mario's mustache that is a different color from his hair. You can't appreciate it. But no.
What a shame. Yeah.
But no, this is a handheld game for me through and through. So far, I beat the first world. I'm like a little bit into the second world. I'll probably be through this game by the end of this week, unless I fall deep into the well that is Smash Brothers. Spoilers, I probably will fall into that well regardless. But I do plan on streaming it. I think Logan's supposed to be at that stream. So if you want to see us play that, you can head over to twitch.tv/Fanatics4. Okay, plugs are done.
Nice.
You playing anything, Parker?
Man, I'm kind of dipping my toes in a bunch of stuff. I got a bunch of Christmas gift games, and I just picked up My Hero 1's Justice today. I mean, it was a gift for Christmas, but I just started playing it today. And I mean, besides Smash, I really haven't played any fighting games other than like going over to friends' houses and playing Tekken and stuff like that. And this one in and of itself is it, would the right term be like arena brawler, I guess?
Yeah, yeah.
And yeah, it's interesting. It's definitely different, but it's fun so far. I haven't gotten, barely far in it at all, but been playing.
Who's your main?
Man, so I honestly don't know. I've probably played a total of like 5 matches just because I just played on my lunch break today at work.
Right.
And so far, I want to say Todoroki. Like,
he's dope. He's dope.
He's just great all around. So yeah, he's my wife's favorite character for sure in the show, just in general. So, and he's up there for me too. But yeah,
I really wanted to commit to Deku. I wanted to, but I just don't. I don't like him.
See, here's the thing: like committing to Deku for me feels like playing Mario in Smash, or where it's like
that's disrespectful. Yeah, that's disrespectful to Logan. That's a.
I don't know why.
You're just starting up all the beef.
he's gonna get on here and be furious at this backlog of beef that I've begun. But yeah, I just like, I don't know why, for some reason in these games, like I don't like playing the mascot characters, and I'm sure it's like, I'm by no means a hipster, but I think it's a little bit of that kind of, that variety of gene where like, I just, you know, prefer to play, well, part of it is that when I played Brawl, especially it was a time I was in college and, you know, had some roommates and stuff, and they were all a lot better at the game than I was. But like one of my edges was playing kind of obscure characters. So that was, you know, I'd play Olimar and Pokemon Trainer, and I don't know, I mean, Toon Link and stuff, and those were just kind of helpful. So I think that's been my motto a lot of times, is playing kind of obscure characters just to have a little bit of the edge of surprise.
Right.
But yeah,
less predictable that way.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. So, but yeah, I've been playing that, and Ys 8 started that a little bit, and that's pretty cool so far. And then yeah, finished up World of Light.
I don't think I have to say this, but I got both the games that you just mentioned. And I didn't like Ys at all. Like it was just like, and part of that is like, I think I got Ys like like I think I got it like 2 months before it came out, so it was like unfinished. Like the text was like really weird, and it was like there was like weird bugs and stuff like that, and I just did I wasn't feeling it.
Yeah, I like the game mechanics themselves pretty well. I think so far, like I don't, and you know, the kind of base building aspects of it, I've put in maybe like 5 hours or a little less than that. But as far as the like cutscenes and stuff like that goes, it feels really slow, and it makes me miss games like, I mean, Breath of the Wild starts out just like immediately, and that kind of thing is, and like Celeste as well, like those kinds of things where like you get into the game and you're just, you know, up and running from the get-go. I really enjoy.
Or to peek out of our ecosystem a little bit, Spider-Man. Spider-Man is literally like, all right, jump out the window, you're swinging.
Yeah, right. So yeah, that kind of thing is just nice. And so that was something with Ys 8 where it just felt like, oh, this is, I mean, it's definitely a JRPG in that regard, you know, where it has a lot of I mean, I love Xenoblade Chronicles too, and that did the same thing at the beginning where it took forever to get going and like for you to actually do stuff.
See, that was another game. That game I paid for. That was before I had Nintendo powers. You see, and I play, and it feels weird to say that, like as somebody that's like not a huge JRPG fan, but I do get it. Like that's the thing. It's like I only played 16 hours of that game.
Absolutely valid. You still had like 2/3 of the tutorials left.
Yeah, exactly. Like that's like basically what I did in Mario today. Like the hour that I spent with that or whatever was like the 16 hours I spent in Xenoblade. So it was like I just can't. And plus I was kind of burned on X, Xenoblade Chronicles X on the Wii U, because I played that and I was like, man, I want to do that. I want to play as this thing on the box, right? 30 hours in. Oof. And I just got the, like, it takes 30, like it legit takes 30 hours to get the skills in that game. I was like, nope, nope. After I got, and it wasn't even worth it. Like after I got the skill, I was like, okay, I quit. I'm out of this game. It's not happening.
No, man, my boss got he got Xenoblade Chronicles 2 and like hadn't done any research on it at all. And I mean, like he has good taste in games as well, but just like has no concept of JRPGs prior to this, and then coming into it, he played about an hour and was like, yeah, no, I don't really know, and then went back and tried one more time for another hour. So he was like, there's no way, like this is not for me at all. And because it's like, it's, you know, fairly just slow paced getting into it, and it's a long sprawling game. But yeah, if you don't know that going into it and you prefer just kind of like action packed, you know, just moving games, it's just, that's not what that is.
Yeah, I feel like how I get into games, like just, and that's why I'm not a huge fan of JRPGs, is because it's like a big part of it has, like, I have to be won over by the gameplay, and then I'll care about the story. Like, I know for JRPGs, it's always the opposite of that. It's like, I care about this story and these characters so much that I'm going to play this gameplay, and then eventually maybe I'll find love for it or whatever. And it's like, I just don't have that.
Yeah. For me, it's pretty much like I'll bear through some of this story stuff until I get to enjoy some of the gameplay, and then maybe I'll eventually care about the story anyway. Like, which is a pretty dumb way to go through it, but whatever. That's just what it is.
Yeah, I just can't. The only RPG that I ever got deep into and will never not be deep into is Pokemon. And that's because I cared about the world first. And then it was like, okay, the gameplay, blah blah. And I'm still beating the drum of like I would love Pokemon so much more if I enjoyed the gameplay more. But hey, man, I'm already in.
Yeah, totally. So yeah, but that's what I've been playing, and so I'm curious to see how Ys 8 pans out. I'll keep you updated as time goes on, and I think I actually will enjoy it quite a bit. But yeah, I have yet to see for a good bit.
Somebody has to,
Yep. So
and why don't people in the comments let us know what you guys are playing, and let us know what we're not playing that maybe we should be playing that you want us to talk about.
True. Well, one thing we will be playing fairly soon, not quite as soon as you'd anticipated, or really I had either, but Yoshi's Crafted World. So we didn't get a direct this week. That's kind of some amount of an elephant in the room. Everybody knows.
Everybody knows it.
So it's not like a surprise or whatever at this point. But yeah, so we didn't get a direct, but we did get a bunch of release dates, and so we'll be going over some of those. One of those was Yoshi's Crafted World coming out on March 29th. And we got a story trailer for it as well. The basic story is that Kamek and Baby Bowser steal the Sundream Stone from the Yoshis, and the Yoshis seem pretty upset about it and have to go get all those stones. So it's just a lot of doing chores and, finding things.
Why's Bowser and the gang always got to be stealing from Yoshi?
Okay, in the trailer, though, I was like frustrated that Yoshi didn't just like go up and swap. I mean, because I had just played as Yoshi in Smash, and you can like tongue anybody and eat them up or whatever, turn them into eggs. I was like, dude, you can just do that.
Just like use your final smash on him, man.
Come on. But so thoughts on that being on March 29th as opposed to, you thought what, March 8th or March 10th?
I think it's dumb. I think that they should have swapped Kirby and Yoshi if they wanted to make a splash. Because like the 3DS definitely seems like, even for like the purpose that they wanted to use it for, where it's like, hey, we have theoretically 70, 80 million of these out in the wild, so it's just free money. But the games really haven't been selling well.
Yeah.
So it's just like, put those games on the Switch, chalk up the 3DS as a loss, even just hang it up.
Yeah, exactly. Even in Japan, where like handheld gaming is, the thing, which are obviously the Switch is a hybrid, so it also has handheld gaming. But even in Japan, like new games, I mean, Pokemon still sells all right. Omega. Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon sell fairly well and stuff here and there.
Even that didn't really do that well in the context of like Pokemon, because like it's at like I think under 9 million, like 8 point something.
Yeah, worldwide. I want to say it was like less than or more than half, less than 2/3 of what X and Y were overall. Yeah. I could be wrong for sure, but
I don't even think that's like I don't think it's high enough in the sales. I'm checking. Right now. I don't think it's high enough in the sales for like the best-selling 3DS games to even be on this list, but
interesting.
We're seeing.
Yeah.
Oh no, here it is. 7.96 million.
Gotcha. That's for Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon, or just Sun and Moon?
Ultra Sun, Ultra Moon.
Gotcha.
OG Sun and Moon sold a lot better.
Okay.
16.13 million.
Yep. And I feel like part of... Sorry, go ahead.
A lot, like... I feel like a lot of people are going to say what I assume you were going to say, like the whole remake, like rehash thing.
Yeah.
On the other end of that, like Omega Ruby Alpha Sapphire, that sold 14 million.
Yeah.
And that's a rehash.
And I feel like it's got to be a little bit to do with the fact of like the Pokemon Stars rumor at the time, like when it was announced. I just feel like a lot of people were really excited for that. And then especially when we heard in pretty much the same week, or maybe even the same day, I think it was the same week, because we heard about Pokemon Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon first. And then in the E3 Direct the next week, we found out about Pokemon Switch coming. And then, at that point, everybody's like, well, I'm not going to bother getting this rehash of a game because I'll just get a new one whenever that comes out. Yep. But yeah,
Yoshi's Crafted Nintendo. Let me
But
that's weird. I'm trying to click over to the DS games and it's like not letting me. Oh, so okay. More anecdotal evidence, maybe of the opposite side of what I'm saying.
Okay.
Black and White 2 aren't in there. They didn't sell high enough to be in the top 10 of DS games either. So that might be a big part of it too.
Yeah. Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, I'm curious about, probably even Yellow might be the same kind of thing, or I don't know.
Yellow sold crazy well, but not as well as
Red and Blue. Right, yeah, for sure. Yeah, man, that's interesting. But no, you're totally right. They definitely should have swapped Yoshi and Kirby in this case. And for context for anybody, the Kirby game we're talking about is the Kirby Extra Epic Yarn, as opposed to, we're not talking about Kirby Star Allies from last year.
Yeah, no, we're not talking about that.
But definitely Kirby, I feel like should have been switched with Yoshi, because you want to sell more Switches before the end of the quarter goes.
Yeah, you want to be like, hey, that Switch game, the first Switch game, big one that we released this year. Well, I guess New Super Mario Bros. Is like technically the first big one, but big new one that we released this year. It sold X amount before the quarter ended, but now we won't have that. Yeah. Well, we'll have like 5 days or something like that.
Yeah, and this was when last week when we were talking, like at some point I said something to the effect of like, it would be the obvious thing to do to release it early March, but Nintendo doesn't always do the obvious thing.
That's true.
Unfortunately, this is kind of that. We're like, come on, guys. And it's weird too, because like I feel like it seems like the game's done. Like it's not a question of them finishing it, and because even when they pushed it at 2019 in the first place, it seemed more that it was that they wanted it in kind of its optimal space than them trying to finish it up. I don't know.
I think that they were kind of like, it felt like to me the first time that we saw Yoshi for Nintendo Switch, as it was called at the time, it lacked identity. It didn't really have what it does now, and maybe part of that is just that they didn't reveal that identity to us, but I think a lot of it is like they were trying to like feel it out, because like the gap between when we found out Yoshi was a thing and when we got the full rollout was like that's like a whole release cycle right there. You know, like there were whole games revealed and released in between that interim, and we still didn't know when Yoshi was going to come out. So I definitely think that they used that time to put in more development time, because I think that it definitely didn't need it. I don't think that this was like a Pikmin situation where they're like, hey, you know what? This wouldn't do very well right now, you know?
Right, where there's holding on to it just for the sake of finding a better window. Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, and some people speculated too that when they showed it to us, the two-player mechanic was like really seemed instrumental to it, because that was, E3 2017, where they showed it off, and it was like, everything they did pretty much was showing two players in the world flipping mechanic and stuff like that. And it could just be marketing stuff where they just decided to stop marketing that as much and, you know, are now showing it off more as a single player game. But I wonder if that was like a really instrumental part of the game. And then they were like, yeah, we need to be able to make it stand alone more. Because that was, I mean, something with Kirby Star Allies especially was that if you didn't have other people to play it with, it just like, it wasn't the same game as if you had other people to play with. Still too easy with other people to play with as well, but it's at least more,
even
fun.
Easier.
Right, yeah, exactly. But yeah, and so it seems like from the trailer, it looks like there's going to be a number of levels, probably at least 8, or there's 5 stones or 6 stones or something, so it looks like probably at least 6 worlds with about 8 levels each, so roughly 50-ish levels, and they seem to be pretty long from the trailers themselves, so I don't know, curious to see how much content is in there. And then we got some other release dates as well for some other games that some of these we already knew about and some other ones we did not. So have you played a lot of Final Fantasy games?
It's almost like we could have had a direct.
It almost is. It's almost like, what is that?
But yeah, no, I haven't played much Final Fantasy games. The only one that I spent any real time with was 15, because it was less RPG-ish, you know? So it was like, I'll play this. This looks like pretty Western. Still didn't put much time into it, though.
Yeah. So I actually, I haven't really played any Final Fantasy games. But so, 10 and 10-2 and 12 the Zodiac Age. We already knew all those were coming out, but now we have release dates for them. So 10 and 10-2 are coming out April 16th, and 12, the Zodiac Age, is coming out the 30th, which apparently that one also has some aspects of, can be a little bit more, I don't know, like streamlined or whatever, like a little bit less RPG-ish in some regards, but yeah. I don't know.
Where's 8? Says Final Fantasy fans I hear on the internet.
Yeah, I've heard some things about that. It sounds like, okay, the bits that I've heard, and this could be completely wrong because it's pretty third hand, second hand, fourth hand, whatever, is that 7 and 8 were developed at the same time by essentially two different studios within Square Enix, and 7 came out and it was great, 8 came out and it was not as great, and then, or I mean, some people like it, but it just didn't, receive quite as much critical acclaim and all that kind of stuff. And then at some point also the source files seem to have been somewhat lost-ish, to where at this point with 7 they can, it's a lot easier to just get the original source files and then work on those to make them port to something else, whereas with 8 they would actually have to work from the ground up to some degree.
What's up with Square Enix and their management of assets? Because the same thing happened with Kingdom Hearts. What's up with that?
That is a very good question.
Can they not afford hard drives? Do we need to buy more Square Enix games? What's going on?
Yeah. Man, I have no idea. But yeah, no, so it sounds like probably 8 just won't come out ever. If you want to play it, get the original. I don't know. But then, yeah, 7 and 9 also, we don't know what the release dates are for that. So is that something where, do you think we'll find out release dates and they'll be after these ones, or will it be a direct, hey, they're out now, or I don't know. What do you think for that?
I feel like it'll probably be a mixture of both. We'll probably get some in a direct or whatever, and other ones will just be a press release. Mm-hmm. I'm just upset that 8 is not there because it's not consistent with the joke, because 7 didn't eat 8.
Because 7 ain't 9. I mean, that's right.
Yeah, exactly.
Come on.
9 is here, so that doesn't make any sense. That's stupid.
Yep. Maybe 10-2, 8-8, and it just makes even less sense.
Yeah, it's just even. But then again, I mean, the fact that Square Enix is a company that released a game called Final Fantasy X-2, maybe not making sense is on brand.
Yeah, especially with all the I haven't played any Kingdom Hearts games, but some of the names for those games are just ridiculous. Insane. They just try too hard or something, or not hard enough. I'm not sure. It's one or the other, but yeah. So
somebody's trying real hard, real hard.
Yeah. But yeah, do you think you'll be getting either of those games? Probably not.
No.
Yep. I will give some of those games a shot, and I think I would probably like them. It's kind of just a question of when I have availability to play them, and but yeah, I know that I'd enjoy some amount of them, but I don't know which ones, and so that's kind of, I don't really want to take a shot in the dark with the wrong one at the same time and put in money for it. So I don't know.
Hey, Square Enix, send us the codes and send us 2. Not for me though. I'll give the other one to Logan, and then maybe he'll show up.
Yeah. Yep. But yeah, some other ones. This one we didn't actually know was coming at all. This is a surprise as of this week. Dragon's Dogma Dark Arisen, coming out April 23rd. AJ, did you even know this game existed?
Nope.
Yep, me neither.
Sure didn't. But I bet somebody was saying, that game's not possible on the Switch. I bet somebody was saying it.
100%. Yeah. It's, although I did see a surprising amount of comments saying yeah, this is, I'll be getting this for the 3rd time and that kind of thing. So people seem to be really excited about it, but it seems to be a cult classic of some sort. And if you haven't looked anything up about it, just kind of a context of whether or not you would want to look up something about it. It's kind of hack and slashy RPG, sort of in a, I don't know, vein. I can't even.
Don't say Dark Souls.
No, I wasn't going to say Dark. Okay. So yeah, it's more, and I think it's got co-op stuff too. So it's not, that makes it sound almost like a Diablo kind of thing, but it's not like that, because it's not top down. It's right. Dark Souls it came out in the same era as that, so graphically it's kind of similar
just
realm.
A whole lot of brown, grays, and like dingy, gross colors and stuff.
It seems like some of that for sure, and maybe just the bits that they showed. But honestly, like I recently played Dark Souls for the first time, and that was really what turned me off of that game for the longest time. To not even want to try to play it was like, man, it just looks like you're in the same area the whole time, which turns out not to be the case. But it's dark for sure. But yeah, any more thoughts on those games coming out? Again, should have come out in a direct.
I know, right? I might play the Dragon's Dogma thing. Maybe I might mess around with it for a little bit. I don't know if I'll finish it.
Yep.
But I'll try it.
Yeah, and then so this one was interesting. Interesting in just that it's still the same trend. Monster Boy, the Cursed Kingdom, sold 8 times more on Switch than it did. It was sold 8-1 on Switch versus other consoles, which is a lot. And
I'm so surprised.
And it's something, it's exactly. It's been like fairly commonplace fact that's been happening, but it's interesting that it's still happening. I feel like I don't know. I've got some thoughts on it, but go ahead with anything you have to say too.
I feel like this is going to be like more and more common as time goes on, because I feel like a lot of people are in like similar situations that we're in, where it's like, I don't have time for this. You know, I don't have time for this whole like experience of like, I got to get immersed and turn on the 5.1 surround sound, like all that crap. Like I just want to pick up the handheld, play for a little bit, put the game in sleep mode, and throw the tablet across the room. And be done.
Absolutely.
So I feel like a lot of people will get the Switch version just for that, even if maybe they get both. Because like that's a big reason why in the past handhelds were really successful. Like people would buy like like the Lego Star Wars and like the fake handheld versions of the game just to be able to have like a semblance of that like experience on the go. Now they have that same exact experience with like pared down performance in some aspects or visuals. And most aspects. And I think that's a easy compromise to make, to be able to play a game wherever, whenever. With anyone, anywhere, with anyone. Hashtag Nintendo.
No, yeah, to me, it makes absolute sense why it would happen. I think one thing that I've kind of noticed over time as well is, especially in the Japanese charts, there will be we'll see, especially in the West, indie games will sell way better on the Switch than other consoles, for exactly the reasons that you just said. But then looking at other full-priced, first party or like main release games, so I don't know, one example being maybe My Hero 1's Justice or something like that. Right. That one, I'm pretty sure it sold only slightly better on the PS4, but still sold better on the PS4 than on the Switch, which I think most Switch gamers, it seems to me, have probably about the same priorities that I do, which is get the main full price, Nintendo and first party games and that kind of stuff, and then, or exclusives in any case, and then like fill out the gaps with indie games. But there's so many games coming out that like maybe we don't have as much time for or budget for other full priced games that aren't, as high priority or whatever, whereas PS4 owners or primarily PlayStation or Xbox gamers or whatever don't have as many games that are coming out that are exclusives and that kind of thing. I mean, well, obviously last year PS4 had a bunch of great exclusives.
As far as I think that the biggest reason for stuff like that, it's like there's just a bigger portion of people that bought their consoles for that reason. So it's just a matter of like install base at that point, where it's like not many people are buying a PlayStation and like, I'm going to play indie games on this, whereas people on the Switch, it's like, I just want to play games on it, you know, like I just want to play whatever, like give me a game to play on this and I'm going to play it. So they're more likely to buy other things, but it's just not a big enough pool to like have them beat out in the situations where people bought a system to play a certain experience yet. Yeah, it's interesting to me just how many people I talk to that, I mean, myself included, just didn't even barely know about indie games before the Switch and wouldn't have thought to play them pretty much, and now that's like half of my gaming library is a bunch of indie games, because it's just like, they're fun and they're not super long too, so I can do a bunch of them in between other games, and it's a great place for them, in my opinion. Yeah, for sure.
As far as
kind of like it's kind of shocking how many indie games I have installed. Like, I have a lot of indie games, don't get me wrong. But I do not have that many indie games, like, on my SD card. Like, I think I have, like, installed, like, 45 games. Mm-hmm. And less than half of those are indie games. Like, most of them are, like, the, like, first party, like, bigger releases and, like, third party stuff, like Wolfenstein and, like, stuff like that. And then there's, like, Nidhogg and stuff. Like, there's, like, the bigger indie releases that are on here. But most of them, I would say, are, like, third party and first party, like, major releases.
Do you find that's just because you don't, like, go back to the indie games as much? Like, you play them through once and then you're kind of like, well, that was it. I'm done with that one. That kind of thing?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. 100%.
I think same pretty much here. Like, I played Golf Story. I really enjoyed Golf Story. I'm probably not going to play it again, at least not for a long time. Like, it was one of those, like, you get to experience this world, but they make kind of a concise experience where you get to, I don't know, like, experience that whole world in one big playthrough. And so it's a lot more, I don't know, there's a word, but I can't remember it. So that's all right.
Hey, you know, this is a podcast. We don't care about words here.
It's there it is. It's more economical, like in the sense of not just money wise what you're paying for the game, but like within the game. Yeah, exactly. And like it shows you everything it wants to show you within the game, as opposed to having like a lot of extra secrets or whatever kind of stuff. Which, I mean, a lot of times they'll have secrets, but they'll be easy to find in some ways so that you can just see them in your first playthrough and really get that experience as you're going through. Yeah. But yeah, as far as indie games go, another one that's coming out pretty soon, next week, actually. And you might be getting a code for it. I don't know. I'm curious to find out. Travis Strikes Again is sort of an indie game.
Is that an indie game? I don't know if that's an indie game.
It's like, well, so it was weird because it came up in the Nindies Direct. So it's like somewhere in between where true. Like it's promoted as one, but at the same time it's also promoted as a Nintendo game. So like, I don't really know.
How many people work at Grasshopper?
That's a good question. And then also the fact that, yeah, Suda51 with it, man, I don't know. Well, while you look that up, I'll give some things on it. It's got its first review score from Famitsu, and we all know Famitsu has kind of a weird review system, but it got 3 8s and a 9 each out of 10 from Famitsu this past week or so. And
that's indie-ish. That's indie-ish. They got 35 employees.
Okay.
So that's pretty indie.
Mm-hmm.
We'll call them an indie.
But yeah, so that's the...
Wait. Never mind. Their parent company is Gung Ho. Gung Ho Online Entertainment. Mm-hmm. So never mind. I rescind what I just said. They're most definitely, by definition, not an independent developer because they are owned by a corporation.
Gotcha. I guess, I guess what it was is that Grasshopper was indie when they made the first 2 Travis Strikes Again, or the first 2 No More Heroes games. I mean, that I could be wrong on that too. But maybe they were indie back then, and then I think they got bought out more recently. And then, so maybe that's why they still kind of get lumped into that, even though they're not. I don't know. But yeah, so it seems like it reviewed pretty well in any case. The main question that this brought up for me is, what are your thoughts on as far as like, does the success of this game make or break whether or not we get a No More Heroes 3 or a No More Heroes 1 and 2 port?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think that it will. I think Suda himself has said as much as far as like No More Heroes 3, and it just would make sense to port over 1 and 2 so people understand it for 3.
Mm-hmm. No, I mean, you're right. I think I remembered him saying that as well. And so I think that's what kind of sucks is like, I would be interested in playing 3 if it's what 1 and 2 are like, but I don't really know if I care about this one at the same time. Like, I was watching some gameplay of it right before we went live, and yeah, I don't know. It just doesn't like really grab me all that much, which we talked about briefly last week a little bit too.
Yeah, it definitely looks indie game. Can confirm that.
Yep.
So I'm not super interested in it, but yeah, I guess I'll check it out if Nintendo sends it to me, because I don't know if anybody else is interested in it.
Yeah,
that would talk about it on this podcast.
Yeah, so. I mean, it's one of those, like, I would play it, but I just don't know if I feel like spending $40 for it, you know, which is still like $40 is cheaper than a full price game. But I know for sure I wouldn't spend $60 on it just because, you know, I've got tight budgets and stuff. So
Yeah. And I try not to like, and that's the thing of like trying to balance talking about things that people want to hear about and also talking about things that I genuinely care about, because I try not to even request things that I wouldn't pay for.
Right.
Because I don't want like that side of it to impact how I feel about the game, you know, where it's like, well, I didn't pay $60 for this, so I don't care that it doesn't feel like a $60 experience, you know?
Right. Yeah. I guess for me, it would be more like, do I feel like, well, I don't know. I've never gotten a game for free in that regard, but you know, to be able to like retrospectively say like, would this have been worth $60? I don't know. Is that something that's hard to do, I guess, to say retrospectively like that?
Nah, I don't feel like, I mean, it maybe it was at first, where I like, you know, because I feel like everybody that like is early in like the content creation thing and like they're just starting to get games for free, they feel like, man, if I don't like this game and the company knows I don't like this game, maybe they won't send me anything else. But you get to a certain point where it's like, whatever, you know, like if that's how they want to play, then I don't want to play their games.
Right.
And it turns out most companies are fine if you don't like their game, you know, like so. It's just like, and like Nintendo specifically, like it's like it goes against their contract if you genuinely do not like a game and you act like you do like it. Like they want you to be honest about it.
Right. Yeah. No, that's great, because I mean, otherwise, yeah, that would just make for. Someone was saying
there would be no reason to trust anybody that gets a free game. Right,
exactly. Yeah, there was some YouTuber recently that was saying something along the lines. It was especially when the Grinch leak stuff was happening, and everybody was accusing a bunch of channels of like covering it up on purpose and that kind of thing. And one of the guys was like, "No, seriously, if somebody was paying us to lie about it, we would make so much more money showing the fact that they were paying us to lie about it than the money that they were paying us to lie about it. Like just showing that, you know, you get a ton of views and whatever." So yeah. But yeah, no, I'm curious about how that game will turn out in any case. And then some other games that are coming out that are maybe kind of smaller, but definitely not indie games in their time, is that to the Nintendo Online service, Zelda 2 and Blaster Master are coming on the 16th, which is, what, Tuesday? Monday?
Zelda 2, the best game. Hey.
I have never played Zelda 2, so... I'm curious to try it out. There's a bunch of, honestly, like there's the Nintendo Online system gets a pretty bad rap, I feel like, by a lot of people, but I feel like I mean, you've made some great points about kind of like what the point of it is, and that, you know, if it's not better this time next year, then that'll be bad and investors will see that, blah, blah, all that kind of stuff, which is a very good point. And I think just for me personally, I didn't start gaming until I got a Game Boy Color and an N64. So I really missed the NES and SNES bandwagon. So I'm playing a lot of these games for the first time, and I've already gotten probably like 30 hours or so out of the online system. So like $20 for that is definitely worth it, all things considered.
I don't know. This is a thing where it definitely is harder for me to talk about like value.
Yep.
Because like I already like don't look at $20 like it's like this thing where it's like, man, is this worth $20? It's $20.
Right. Yeah.
You know? Like I've again, like not to try to sound disingenuous in any way, but I've spent that on like lunch, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
Where it's like, and I'm not like, oh no, I spent $20 on lunch, I'm going to regret this for years. You know, like it's $20 to play. Like at the very least you get what, like there's like nearly 30 games, if not more than that now on the Nintendo Switch Online. Even if you don't play all 30 of them, that's if you play 4 of those games, that's more than enough to be worth $20 for the year.
Yep. And that's exactly how I looked at it too. I mean, getting it, like I mean, I don't play online that much with other people, but I have some, like enough for it to, you know, be a thing. But when it was coming out, the thing I was excited about was like, oh, cool, I get to try out these games, and I don't have to pay specifically to try out Super Mario Bros. That like the first one that I've played little bits and pieces of here and there at other people's houses or whatever, but I've never actually owned myself and played all the way through. And so, but now I get to try it out, and now I know that I don't like it nearly as much as a lot of other Mario games. Whereas I would rather not have to pay $7 or whatever to find that out. It's, it's obviously, yes, it's great to get to play those old games, but not having to pay piecemeal for them is real nice.
Yeah, give me the Netflix,
Yeah.
Just like, even if they were like, all right, we're going to put everything up through GameCube, which I doubt. I think GameCube they would want to have people pay for a la carte. But if theoretically, if they were to do that and be like, hey, it's $60 a year, I would pay that.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I mean, I wonder what that would mean for other sales of theirs or whatever, but like whatever they'll give, I'll do. Yeah, no, that would be fantastic, because there's still a bunch of GameCube games. I mean, I talked last week about Metroid Prime Trilogy that like I didn't finish playing it on the GameCube because I was starting to play it when I already had a Switch and was like waiting for it to eventually maybe come to Switch, so that would be just easier that way. So there's plenty of games like that where like I'd like to play them, but I'd rather play them conveniently at this point in my life. So
right,
yeah,
agreed.
Yeah, the one thing I'm curious about there too, there was only 2 games that they announced, so Zelda 2 and Blaster Master, and then in Japan they've got a 3rd game. And this was on Tuesday, so when we still didn't know about the Direct, I was speculating that perhaps the 3rd game that they announced would be an SNES. It's bound to happen at some point soon, I would imagine, but I don't know. It's, hard to say. I'm probably just going to keep guessing it until it eventually does happen. So. Yeah. Yep. But
yeah, I think that would make a lot of sense. I don't know if they would want to roll it out with just one game though. Like, what would that game do? I guess Super Mario World. I guess
that would probably have been my guess.
The SNES one.
Yeah,
could be Link to the Past. Link to the Past would be a good one.
Yeah,
I would prefer Link to the Past.
I mean, the thing is, like, you don't really want to, because somebody speculated that they'll try to like roll out the rest of their NES library before they put on SNES stuff, which makes. I mean, at this point, they're running out of like the good NES games, especially that are first party, pretty quick. Like they're coming up to that point where it's going to be where nothing's exciting pretty soon. So
I don't think we have Kirby yet.
That's true. That's
Kirby's Adventure that they could put on there.
And so
they could put Earthbound Beginnings on there. What else is it? NES?
That's.
NES.
I'm definitely out of
I think that's it.
Ones that I can think of.
Is Donkey Kong Jr. on NES?
Oh. Yeah, I guess so.
They could put Donkey Kong Jr. on there. They already have Dr. Mario. That was one of the first ones.
I mean, at this point though, like they're definitely running out of exciting ones. So like it seems like, because even in the virtual console days, they would put up, because I was just looking at the list at some point, and they'd put up a couple NES games, and at the same week put up a couple N64 games or something like that.
Are there any Mega Man games on NES? Like not NES. I'm talking about like the online offering. Do we have any of the Mega Man
do we
games?
have any? No, not yet.
They could do Mega Man. That's
I guess the question then is just licensing. Like, do they? Because
is Contra on there?
Contra's not on there. Yeah. So there's a bunch of third-party games for sure that they could stick on there. But I guess it's a question of like how much income, or like how much are they making that they can then split out between other companies but they did like Ninja Gaiden and stuff. So obviously they'll do some of that, if not a lot more.
Right.
Yeah. So, I'm curious how that pans out. Maybe next week we'll get a direct and we'll find out, but who's to say? And then the last news bit is that, speaking of streaming games, actually kind of, is that Amazon is going to start streaming games, it looks like in 2020, from what we can tell. I couldn't find the article. We were talking about this just before we went on. I can't remember if this is speculative or if this is, I think it's actually like stated. Here, I'm pulling it up right now. So it's earlier this week when Razer announced it would integrate Amazon Alexa into its gaming platform. No, that might be something different. Oh well. This talks more about streaming game service. So yeah, I don't know. Thoughts on game streaming and all that stuff?
I think that it's inevitability for Nintendo. I think people doing it in the West more often is going to make Nintendo want to do it even more, especially if they see that it can be done well. I think Reggie is a crazy person for not thinking that the Google Project Google, the streaming service that they did, that worked really well, like a lot better than I would have ever expected. And I think that if they can get them to do it, that could be a good thing for Switch games. Be real nice.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like there's a fine line to me between if you start enabling game streaming, where I mean, so a la Resident Evil 7 or what was the other one they tried? Was it Assassin's Creed Odyssey in Japan?
Yeah, Assassin's Creed Odyssey.
I think it's fantastic. If it's something where it's like, we know we won't be able to get this game on the platform, so we're going to do it in a streaming fashion so that anybody who wants to do it that way, you can do it that way. I think the dangerous part is then if companies that could have put in the effort, for example, Doom or whatever, like if Bethesda instead had been
even Resident Evil 7, like they could have put Resident Evil 7 on the Switch.
Right. So that's the thing is like, does it mean that many more, does it lower the bar so that now all the third parties just go straight to streaming instead of even trying to put some of their games that could run on the Switch, putting it on there natively, actually porting it or whatever? I don't know. And I would hope in a perfect world, we would have like this cap where it's, not reasonable to port over this level and then everything above there just gets streamed. Would be nice.
Yeah. Or even if it was just incentivized differently. Like if they're like, hey, if you just want this extra revenue but not enough to like invest, like a Cyberpunk 2077 situation where they're like, there's no way that we would put that much work into like downscaling this game just to get whatever sales we may or may not get on the Switch. In that scenario where they're like, hey, you can get a portion of whatever you were going to get for streaming this game, like that situation. So like not have it so that monetizing their game in that way would be 1-to-1 to if they ported it. So that way it's like, it's just the games that would never even consider it instead of the people that are really actually trying to like buy into the Switch.
Right. Yeah. No, that would be fantastic. Yeah, so they can get a little piece of the pie without like having to compromise it at the same time. No, that would be really, really cool. I'd be down with that for sure. Because there's a lot of games that I'd love to try and love to play, but I just at this point don't have another console to play them on, and so it's just not going to happen. But it would be awesome if they could stream them on the Switch too.
Yep, agreed.
But that's it for the news. And let's go into a little video you made last week. Or this week, sorry. Yeah, I thought it was awesome. It was really good. I mean, a lot of people were super interested in it too, and just as far as hearing what all the different teams were doing. So, yeah. There's a couple of things that, I mean, just thoughts in general, some things that, I mean, I couldn't go too much in depth as far as like, I think this team's doing this differently, because what you said, I mean, for the most part, just makes sense. You did a lot more research than I would have done on it. The other ones that I put in here was, well, actually, no, because most of the speculations that I forgot that you put for 2019. So I wrote in some things that were for past 2020 in my comments and realized, nope, that's not the case. So
yeah, I mean, I had some stuff in there that I think will probably happen after 2019, but they have in the pipeline, you know, like with actual like tangible work, not just like, hey, yeah, we might do this,
yeah,
you know,
right.
So there is stuff in there for that, but it is like it's kind of like how Nintendo structures their direct, where it's like, we might talk about something that's 2 years from now, but for the most part, most of this is for the next 8 to 12 months, you know.
Right. Yeah, exactly. I think the only one that I would think differently was, you mentioned Breath of the Wild DLC, and would more strongly guess from my perspective that they're working on a full-fledged sequel. I also think probably that they're working on that. So this is Nintendo EPD, obviously, that they're also working on, and there's a comment about this later that somebody put in, but Mario Odyssey 2 for probably 2020 or maybe 2021. I don't know. But as opposed to doing like DLC for that I think at this point they're just going to like go ahead and make a second one in the same vein as of Mario Galaxy 2. So those were some thoughts that I had. But yeah, I don't know. I've got more thoughts, but I think some of these will come out through some of the comments. So I don't know. You want to start getting into those comments?
I mean, if you think there's a lot of bleed through with like what you have to say and what the comments have to say, then we'll go into the comments and then address your thoughts as we do that.
Sure. Yeah, so the first one is from Brave Lady Lynn, and she says, keep up the fantastic videos. They're always well thought out and unique. My favorite studio is either Intelligent System or Game Freak. A bit more towards Intelligent Systems, not just because of Fire Emblem, but for the 3 Paper Mario games as well, and still have hope they'll be brought back to its former glory.
I think my favorite studio would have to be EPD, like easily. I really like Intelligent Systems. But it's like I think Fire Emblem kind of loses it for me a little bit, not because I don't think Fire Emblem is good, but it's just a game that doesn't really like appeal to me specifically, you know. It's just not really a AJ game. If we were to label it like that. I think they definitely make really good stuff. I like Game Freak. I think that Game Freak, like they think too small, and it irritates me because it's like we have the biggest IP in the world, but like we're just going to approach it like we're like living paycheck to paycheck, like we'll get in what we can. Like no, like blow the roof off this thing and like approach it like the sky's the limit, because it really is. Like the game is going to make its money back, no matter how much they dump into this game. It's going to make its money back.
No, yeah, that seems, and they've got such a big team, or they at least could have such a big team. I mean, they've got a couple hundred people there, right?
Yep, and I'm pretty sure, but we can look that up as you can.
But yeah, I mean, they've got a ton of people. They could definitely put in a lot more resources, and I mean, I feel like so many people would rather they skip, like, a yellow or that equivalent where it's like the third game, the revision or whatever, for them to put in just that much more work into the next one, which, I mean, I think probably they tried to put in a lot of work on the 3DS stuff and try to really push that console to its limits. But that said, we'll really see with the Switch.
They put way too much into 3DS, because they blew past its limits. But Game Freak has 143 employees.
Okay.
And even beyond that, I think that we could look into like the teams that help a lot with Pokemon games, like Creatures. They're usually like all hands on most Pokemon games, and they haven't. I mentioned it because there are a lot of studios that I was like, okay, I'm saving this for another video because this would be way too long. But I did mention Creatures. Creatures is usually working on something to do with Pokemon, and they haven't been on a project for, I think, like 2 to 3 years. So it would be plausible for them to be on Pokemon 2019, whatever. The last game that games that they worked on were Pokemon Go, Pokemon Tournament, and Detective Pikachu, all in 2016.
Wow.
So they're doing something. And I think it would make a lot of sense if they did the work. And what they do mostly is modeling. So
you're getting my hopes up, AJ.
I'm just saying. 3 years is a long time to do some modeling, and that's something that you need in an ambitious Pokemon game,
Yep. No, totally. Yeah, I mean,
they have 110 employees as of June 2017.
Yeah,
so that's potentially 200 people. That's a AAA game for most studios. 300 people. You know, like
that's a lot of resources. They can do a lot of stuff with that. I mean, and like you said, a lot of other times too, the number of people they could pull from other studios too, if they really needed to, with the Nintendo resources and stuff.
Yeah, hit up Retro.
If they got Monolith Soft, exactly.
Like. One Up Studios, hit them up.
That was a really interesting part of your video, by the way, too. Just hearing about all the side support teams and stuff, because that's something I feel like we don't really hear about a lot is that there's, you know, actual teams that do that. And one of the comments too that I had was like, I hope that some of those are working on just a lot of little projects where, I mean, something like, you know, switching up the Switch UI and working on that to make it just that much better over time too. Because again, we talked about like folders and stuff last week, and man alive, I'll bang that drum till I die. I would love that kind of a thing, or I don't know, you know, even like messaging and some dumb stuff like that, where like I see somebody's online, I don't feel like taking out my phone, but just like send them a little something or other would be really nice.
Put the Mitomo people on the Switch UI. Well, DNA, they worked on Mitomo mostly. And EPD. But yeah, this video was like weird for me, because it's like I really didn't know how people were going to receive it, and that's why it took me so long to make it, because this is something that I've always known, and I've talked about this a lot. It all gets lost because like I'll have a conversation with like Logan and Bob, and I don't know if I talked about it publicly or not, you know, because it's just like all those conversations bleed together. But like there's something I was talking to them about where it's like I'll get so lost in the weeds of like how I think about people's content and like the things that I make, where it's like, well, this is old hat, like everybody knows this, everybody knows how EPD is structured, you know. Like everybody knows that 1UP Studio is a XDev now, you know, like, and they just mostly do, so everybody knows that, you know. It's like, turns out not everybody knows that. So it's like this video definitely helped me a lot, where it's like what to do moving forward, where it's like not assume that everything that I know intimately is what everybody knows intimately.
No, I think there's a lot of stuff like that. I mean, it's the same kind of thing where like in a different regard, I was playing Smash with my wife yesterday, where like she has never played a Smash game at all. And so I was showing her all this stuff, and there were just a lot of things that I had to think about differently, of like, oh no, I have to like tell her that you can double jump, and that you can't, you know, like these just little nuances that are just completely normal things to me just because I'm used to them. But then to somebody who is new to games in a lot of respects, just wouldn't think about that kind of stuff.
Like if she got KO'd, you couldn't be like, oh, you could have DI'd that. She'd be like, what?
Yeah, exactly. So yeah. Also, you'd one of the other things I thought about, you mentioned that Luigi's Mansion 3 is being worked on by Nintendo EPD. Isn't that sometimes worked on by Next Level, or was that just Dark Moon and the Luigi?
That was Dark Moon. Yeah.
Okay, gotcha. Interesting. Cool. And then before we move away from this comment too, one of the things that Brave Lady Lynn brought up is that she hopes the Paper Mario games are brought back to their former glory. Just kind of touching on the former glory thing in general, kind of the thoughts that I had on just this subject as a whole is that like now finally, for the first time in like ever, handheld and home console, you know, are merging into one. And so unless Nintendo pulls a fast one and decides to announce another handheld game and then they're fragmented again.
Quick addendum to what you said. Next Level didn't work on the Luigi's Mansion port. That was Grezzo.
Ah, that's right. Yep.
That did the 3DS.
Yep. And they also did what, Ocarina of Time 3D.
They do like a lot of like the Zelda ports and stuff like that.
Gotcha. Yeah. Okay. Oh yeah, and Next Level Games, I looked them up a little bit earlier too. They're not even a first party or second party or third party. Well,
they are. They're second party.
They're second party. Okay, because they had like, oh, maybe they had games like, I don't know, NHL Blitz and some other stuff, but maybe those were Nintendo games that, or whatever, doesn't matter.
It's also like it really depends on like how far back you go.
True.
It's like a lot of devs are like one of Nintendo's, like Camelot, they're a Sony studio. I mean Sega studio. They're owned by Sega.
Really?
But they're a Nintendo second party.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
exactly.
I didn't really talk about them yet. That's in the future video.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll definitely have thoughts on Camelot. I'll say that much. Yeah, and I like, you didn't mention Monolith Soft yet, so I'm not going to say anything on all those. Another one. Yeah. But yeah, no, for sure. But so for the kind of unfragmenting, as it were, of the studios, I feel like now is the time that and this is kind of another topic, but sort of not at the same time, that finally like there's probably a lot of franchises that'll get their like one last shot kind of thing, in the similar sense that like Fire Emblem Awakening was, or like Final Fantasy was back for Square back in the day and stuff like that, where I don't know, I feel like now the Switch exists and they can sell to both handheld and home console user bases, that they're finally going to be like, all right, like let's try F-Zero again, see what happens, or let's try, you know, all these different things. I don't know, what do you think on any of that.
I think that it would behoove them to do things like that, because it's like I talked about, like, people are hungry to play things on Switch, right? And Nintendo really steered into that skid with GameCube, where they had a small but really active user base with GameCube.
Right.
Like, GameCube is like top 3 best selling, like, as far as like install base goes to software sales. It's ridiculous. Like, I think they only sold, well, let me pull it up.
22 million.
21.74 million.
Man, wow.
And software, they sold 208 million.
Wow.
And a lot of that is and for context on that, like, that's more software. That's double the software that Wii U did, and Wii U is like 7 million less than GameCube. It's double with Switch did. Triple. No. Double. It's double what Switch did, and it's 1 million less in terms of like hardware sales. So it's, I think a lot of that is owed to like so many like eclectic, like crazy games that nobody really expects to come to a Nintendo platform, and people double dipping on that. So I think having that with a platform that actually is like with no asterisks successful, you know, like Switch, like on pace to be at like 30 million in a couple months, you know. I think it will make a lot of sense for them to like sell an active user base like that, a lot of like new experiences.
No, I feel like there's a lot of franchises that kind of just, they were given a second chance, but like at a just terrible time. Like Golden Sun, for example. I would love to see Golden Sun come back, and Dark Dawn came out in 2010 on the DS when like it just wasn't, it was kind of waning at that point, and there were just, I mean, not that it still wasn't selling, because it was selling, but as far as like that wasn't, you know, it was a very casual market at the same time. And so there's a lot of franchises like that. I feel like that just, they were given another chance, but just not really at an optimal time, which just kind of sucks. So I'd love to see them get another chance nowadays.
Same.
But yeah, moving on to the next one. So Frosted Firefly says, Monolith Soft and Retro Studios have to be the favorites from me. One puts so much effort into their world building that you really want to live there, and the other puts so much heart into their level design and gameplay in general that it's hard not to find something that challenges you with respect as a gamer and casual. Now, if those two studios were to make a game together,
Yo, I'm down.
Yep.
Granted, they kind of do make games together a lot, but not like this is like a Retro Studios game in cooperation with Monolith. It's like, all right, Monolith, we know you're handling the world design, you know, like that sort of thing, or like the environments and modeling, all that stuff. Like they're more support roles than anything. They're not like a situation where it's like Bandai Namco and Capcom teaming up on a fighting game or whatever, you know?
Right. Yeah, exactly. It's just that they're both like support resources on the same kind of thing, and or like that one of them is just kind of helping out in some regards. But no, that would be...
They're both grunts. They're not like leading the production.
Yep. No, because I mean, totally the ambition of a game that the two of them would do together would be really something awesome, because Monolith, again,
insane.
Yeah,
and it will probably be canceled 3 times over.
Yeah, it would. But man,
we would see it eventually. It would just take 12 years.
I would love to see that happen, for one thing, and also, yeah, both of those are just great games. I mean, I talked about Xenoblade Chronicles 2 earlier, and I really did like that game a lot. That was Logan in his video asked what your top RPG is on the Switch, and my two are probably Xenoblade Chronicles 2 and Octopath Traveler. Like, both of those are just really, really good. Although Xenoblade obviously took a while to get into it, but Monolith Soft does a great game from at least that bit. And again, you're going to be talking about them next time, so I won't say anything more, but I'm curious to hear what you expand upon as far as they go.
Yeah, they got a lot. They got a lot. That's, I mean, like I said, when I was writing this video, I planned on talking about all of them. Like every studio they have access to, even a lot of third-party ones. But I was like, all right, this video is already too long, you know, where it's like where I had it, and I was like, nah, I gotta like just break it out and see how it does, and then if people like it, I'll do like more of their studios, and then maybe even go, because I know a lot of people were commenting like, I want to know more about what like the non-game dev studios do, like maybe do like more talk on what they do.
Yeah.
There's a lot of ideas that could come from that video that I think I'm going to jump into.
Yeah. No, I mean, your earlier point just of that there's a lot of stuff that you probably know that you think is commonplace that other people don't know. I think that's super apt, and that there's a lot of things that, yeah, just I and lots of other people aren't aware of. So, Gazendra Fox says, I want to see what the third team under Monolith umbrella could do with their own game, even a smaller digital-only eShop title, considering the variety on display and twisting of mechanics into some very strange directions in the Octo expansion they did. Side note, doesn't matter. He mentions the Octo expansion earlier. Was Monolith working with or did he mean the Torna expansion for Xenoblade Chronicles 2?
I think he means the Torna expansion.
Okay. Because he mentions that again later. Because, yeah, I would have assumed that the Octo expansion was probably also still Nintendo EPD, but, I mean, unless...
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was EPD. But, I don't think they had any, like, crazy support on that.
I don't know. But Gazendra Fox, if you know something we don't know, feel free to let us know. But yeah, continuing on, he says, but they're probably working on a Shrines equivalent for the next 3D Zelda, if it's as close to happening as some of the rumors suggest, since I think the groundwork for the studio was laid when people at Monolith did the Shrines for Breath of the Wild towards the end of the game towards the end of that game development cycle. I don't know if they're my favorite of Nintendo studios. Of teams within studios, I guess. I'm sure I read they got a new office when they were set up, but couldn't it have been easier to have just renamed them and given their own studio name at that point? But seeing what they do next, considering how they've twisted and iterated in interesting and creative ways, established mechanics giving to them by another project is exciting to me in terms of what they'll do next after Octo expansion. Again, possibly Torna expansion. But they're a helper studio, so it wouldn't have counted for the video anyway. This sort of video is really interesting to me. It would be definitely interesting to see more along these lines in the future.
Yeah, I'm not seeing anything from Monolith. I think he definitely means the Torna expansion.
Yeah, which I heard great things about that, for the record. I didn't go back in and play it, but I definitely heard that it kind of streamlined the whole experience, which, I mean, that game in general, if you played it at launch versus if you played it like 6 months later, was fairly different, but yeah. Also, for that, product provided by Nintendo. They didn't send it, I mean, they sent it to me, but I gave it to Logan, so I don't really have much to say about it. Yep.
But yeah, they have 4 studios.
Oh, okay. Gotcha. Again, I would ask you what some of them are doing, but I guess we'll be waiting to find out pretty soon. Everybody go subscribe and watch the videos and listen to the videos.
/Max4.
But yeah, any more thoughts on this one before we move on to the next comment?
Nah, that's spoilers.
That's what I figured, so just wanted to check. All right, Guillermin1334 says, perhaps there's some need for Retro to prove people want a new Star Fox game after whatever Zero was. So a racer would act as a litmus test. Or maybe I've got it backwards. Maybe Retro were asked to make a Star Fox game to follow Zero, but have dreams of resurrecting F-Zero. So this idea is to prove they can make such a racer, and that Nintendo's core audience isn't merely content with Mario Kart as a racer.
I disagree with that. Because it would be like saying, like, millennials still like Applebee's, so let's give them McDonald's, you know, like,
right.
It's not the same thing. Like, you're trying to prove that people want something that you're not going to give them to try to prove that they want it, you know, like, that's very backwards. And even in the other way, it's like, if people want an F-Zero game, they want an F-Zero game. It's not like people are like, something that would be a better litmus test for if people wanted a F-Zero game is how much they embraced the Mario Kart 8 DLC. Because that's literally F-Zero, right. You know?
Yeah, no, for sure. I feel like, I mean, I'm kind of right there with you. I feel like that's they probably don't confuse those franchises as much as we as an audience are going to see. I mean, if the Star Fox Grand Prix, if it even exists and happens, ends up being so much like F-Zero, I suspect that they went at it from like all right, let's figure out how we're going to do Star Fox, and then it ended up being more like F-Zero in some regards. So then we as an audience are going to be like, okay, well, you guys just made an F-Zero game but called it Star Fox, but that wasn't like their intention going into it. I think sometimes
but it wouldn't surprise me if it was, because F-Zero and Star Fox already have a lot of crossover. Like, there's already Star Fox characters in F-Zero games.
Yeah, no, for sure.
So it wouldn't surprise me at all if they did that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know. I'd be surprised for sure. But I mean, it's, we can't really ever know intentions and stuff like that. So one thing or another. But yeah, for sure, I think that would just be odd of them to do it that way personally.
Right. I mean, I agree.
Yeah.
I agree.
Mm-hmm.
I think it would be odd.
Yeah. No, I mean, that's the thing is like, there's a lot of time. I feel like we think conspiracy theories oftentimes, which I mean, that's not even quite a conspiracy theory, but a little bit where it's like they had this intention going into it. But I think, that's just not always going to be the case where they haven't really thought that direction about those kinds of things. But I mean, maybe. Who's to say? Yeah.
That's just a theory.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Where'd you get that from? Man.
A friend of a friend.
Touche. And last but not least, so this is our good old friend Grim Hain. AJ dropping the Nintendo Studios is definitely some nerd stuff. Luckily, that's the best kind of nerd stuff. I think Breath of the Wild stole my love away from the Pokemon franchise this year. Breath of the Wild and Let's Go both being games that were new to me in 2018, which really, Grim Hain, I'm surprised you hadn't played Breath of the Wild prior to that, but that's a separate thing all in itself.
Man, that sounds like some nerd stuff.
Oh man. But yeah, so, and unless the Pokemon Company / Game Freak come out swinging, I don't see that changing. I'd like to believe they'll deliver a groundbreaking new Pokemon, but my expectations are that it'll be a moderate divergence from the Pokemon formula. Prove me wrong, Game Freak, prove me wrong. Don't get me wrong, I still enjoy Pokemon and Mario. They're fun games, but as has been discussed in various videos on this channel, they're pretty much same gaming it with new releases. I know people love Odyssey because of Cappy, and while it did add some new gameplay, it really wasn't entirely unique gameplay, even if we're just looking at Mario. I'd argue the only thing really unique was the mechanic where you take over an enemy, and honestly, most of the time that felt shoehorned in. The other aspects, such as extending Mario's jump, gathering coins, smashing blocks, is all small extensions of what we've already seen from Mario. To top it off, they flat out dissed my boy Luigi by sticking him in Balloon World. Not Nintendo, that might have flown back before the year of Luigi, but now, with the Switch and all this stuff Luigi has done, show him some respect. P.S. AJ has a video on how you can do this. I feel like I'm both preaching to the choir and beating a dead horse with how Pokemon is following the same pattern game in and game out. Let's Go is a nice splash of paint and stripping away some of the extremely dated and obsolete mechanics, but that's really baby steps for what I want the 2019 game to be. And I fully understand Let's Go is not meant to be the franchise redefining game. That's not what my issue is. It's that it's fully possible that the Pokemon Company and Game Freak to look at the popularity of Let's Go and rest on the laurels for 2019 game, thinking, okay, as long as we make a few tweaks back to quote unquote hardcore style, we'll be good. And mic drop.
This is all true. I argue that I don't really agree with the Mario aspect. I think they changed Mario games up a lot.
Mm-hmm. That's what I was going to say too.
With the exception of the new Super Mario Bros. Series, that game, that's much more analogous to the whole like Pokemon thing of like, oh yeah, we got fairy types now. You know,
yeah.
like that whole thing, playing the same game for 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
And I have faith that they'll change up Pokemon. I think that the biggest thing for them is that they're scared. Mm-hmm. Like in the same way that Activision is scared to change Call of Duty, you know, because it's like, hey, if we have this thing that sells to tens of millions of people every year, and whenever you change the smallest bit of thing in that can like make so many people like crazy mad for no reason, you know, like especially in like the gamer sphere of like, oh, this handling doesn't feel the same way, or you know, even with Pokemon Let's Go, like, I want Wild Encounters back, even though it's been a meme forever how annoying Wild Encounters are. You know, it's like the second that you even present the possibility of change to a large fan base, a big portion of them is like, I will hate that and it will fail, and it doesn't, you know?
Yeah.
And I think Pokemon Let's Go showed them that it won't. You know, like if they decide to say, hey, as long as we keep these core tenets, which at the end of the day, that's all that matters, is it's like the exploration, like, and I talk about this a lot, and ad nauseum, all the different videos all over the channel about Pokemon, where it's like, there are very simple, broad things that make up Pokemon. It's the exploration, it's the building your team and like having the bond with these creatures and battling. How you go about doing that is negotiable. You know, it's not this thing of like it has to be you press A for menus and you gotta have, you know, it's like that's not what Pokemon is. And if that was what it was, then it wouldn't be this transmedia like crazy success across the world, you know.
And the anime would feel really like incorrect and wrong to see that like, oh, they're like both doing something at the same time, you know, like at the same time as Ash is telling Pikachu to use Thunder or whatever. Right.
He didn't just tell Pikachu to use Thunder. Right. He told him to jump on top of a rock, throw a pebble at his opponent, thunderbolt the rock to distract him, and then have his other Pokemon use water gun on the ground to kick up some mud. You know?
Yeah, exactly.
It's like almost like a RTS sort of situation how they and it's not even just exclusive to the anime either. It's in the manga. It's in any like narrative situation where they're able to have that type of like freestyle nature to like how they approach battles.
Yep.
And we have that technology now. We're not on Game Boys, so we're able to like have this sort of like different approach to battle. And to make it strategic, you can't like just straight up blow it up in that way. But like fighting games are a good template for like this is how you make a game like this competitive and also not be the same thing all the time.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, I feel like to some degree, if they were to even just extrapolate on like two of those three things or even one of those three things and make it a lot bigger than it has been before, like that would be awesome. Because at this point, like even with Pokemon Let's Go, yeah, we've got Pokemon out in the overworld. We don't have wild encounters. Like we don't need wild encounters, but like battling the Pokemon. I was watching actually, we painted a living room recently and we were watching just Pokemon anime season 1 in the background. And the episode where Ash finds he tries to catch a Pidgeotto and he just like throws a Pokeball at it and it doesn't work, and Misty's like, oh well, like you got to battle it first. When Pokemon Let's Go came out, they said that the whole reason that you don't battle the Pokemon in Let's Go is because in the anime you didn't battle the Pokemon, you just caught him. And Misty like straight up says you've got to weaken it first.
Wait, did they say that?
Yeah, no, there was some, I don't know if it was Masuda, I want to say it was Masuda, had a quote that was like it was this like long thing a couple weeks before it came out that was something to the effect of like, we just wanted this game to be as much like the anime as possible, where you know you're going out and like it's about catching the Pokemon and this kind of stuff.
Right.
I could try to find the quote for next time or whatever, but essentially said something to the effect of like, in the show you didn't weaken them, you just threw a Pokeball. I was like,
yeah, that's inaccurate.
Not true.
It's definitely not like how it's handled in the like the older games where it's like you got to get them to red health and then you throw the Pokemon. Like that's not how it works. It's definitely like a thing of like they really play it by ear. It's like some Pokemon they completely make faint, and then they throw the Pokemon, you know. And others, it is a situation of like, you want to come with me and be my friend? Here, touch the button, you know. So it's like, yeah.
I mean, honestly, like I never played. Well, actually, I have Undertale. I just haven't played it. But in that game, there's, to my understanding, you can either fight the opponents or you can like kind of talk them down and just have the conversation and not fight them at all and still kind of win the encounter in that way. And I feel like in a similar way, that's what the show is, where like sometimes you fight opposing Pokemon and then catch them, but then other times you just, like you said, you're like, you become friends with them and they're like, I'll come with you. So they could definitely implement some kind of mechanic that's like that, where, you know, maybe it's a bit longer. I don't know exactly what it would be, but something along the lines of like you make.
It could just depend on their nature.
Yes,
that's a whole stat that we have in the game.
Yep.
Where it's like, oh, this is a docile Pokemon. It's less likely to want to fight you. You know. Mm-hmm. So okay, cool. I'll just befriend him. You know.
So then you need to like send out the right Pokemon of yours that would be a good friend of his or something like that. And I don't know, some various things like that. It'll be fun. And like give us options, you know. I think that's, I mean,
crazy giving us options in a multi-billion-dollar IP, the most popular entertainment brand in the world, having depth. What?
Yep. Yeah, no, but I think I agree with what you were saying on, that was what I was going to say pretty much too, with the Mario stuff as well, that like, I feel like they changed up a lot of things too. They did go back to similar mechanics in some ways to Mario 64 and they're like a similar kind of setup, but I felt like the Cappy stuff changed it up quite a bit, and especially like how some of those captures were, I guess a couple of them were, I don't know, not the best or whatever, but for the most part, like it was fun playing little Pokio and, I don't know, even being, I'm trying to think of everything that you could be.
I think the captures were probably like the smallest thing for me in Mario Odyssey. The biggest thing for me was just how they expanded on his capabilities, right, where it's like Mario can roll now and he can jump off his cap and like, you know, like all that stuff. And like seeing what type of crazy trick jumps you can make by using all of those capabilities in tandem with each other.
Yeah.
The captures were like this novel thing where it's like, oh, I wonder what this thing does, and I wonder where I can go with this. But it definitely wasn't like the biggest. Like I wouldn't say that the capture mechanic is what made the game for me.
Right. I mean, I guess, yeah, to that point too, when you go in and just, especially once you know how to do all that stuff, what's fun is just kind of running around and jumping around. Kind of like in Spider-Man, swinging around is just fun, you know, in a similar way, just like running, jumping on your hat, doing all that kind of stuff to get like, hey, can I get up to that corner up there? And sure enough, you can. You know, that kind of stuff's just
it's just another one of those games where it's like no X run, you know, like no Cappy run, no capture run, no, you know, like that's one of those games that gives you the power to have that sort of situation, like a Breath of the Wild, where it's like no equipment other than like a stick or whatever, you know, like you can do crazy like challenges for yourself because that's how wide open the game is.
I spent so long one Sunday or Saturday morning trying to beat I guess just a red Lionel like from the beginning or whatever, and I was like running out of equipment because everything was breaking before the time that he would even like die. And I've seen people do it for sure, but it's just a question of like, you know, having enough equipment and then also lasting long enough, but it didn't end up happening. But yeah, that kind of thing's just fun where it's like, oh well, it's, you know, it sets up a lot of different various mechanics that you can use the game in so many different directions. I mean, just like Pokemon, we were saying it would be great if you could have all these options, but in that one, it
would be so cool if we were talking about a gym leader and then you're like, yeah, you know, I just did the typical thing, you know, I picked the Pokemon that had the strong attack against what he was using, and I'm like, oh really? I just made my Pokemon dodge right before he ran into a wall and he KO'd himself. You know, like that sort of stuff, like making that possible would make the conversations around the game so much more interesting.
Yeah, exactly. No, that would be awesome. But yeah, that was the last comment for your video for this week. Any kind of closing thoughts? I mean, you've got another one coming up at some point that'll be a similar type topic, but with other content. Any closing thoughts on that video?
I like that video a lot. It's one of my favorite ones that I've made. I think that I'm probably not going to go right back to that well. I want to do something similar, but different. So look out for that. The part 2 of this video will probably be after this week, assuming that we don't get a direct. In which case, whichever week following the direct will be that, and then I'll do the part 2 or whatever. But yeah, I like that concept. I'm happy people like that concept. If there's other stuff in the games industry pertaining to Nintendo or Nintendo Switch that you don't know that you think I might know, or maybe you just don't know, it's just something that you have a question about, I'll figure it out and I'll make a video about it. Let me know.
Yep. AJ's smart. He'll figure it out. Come on.
I'll figure it out. You know, I have people at Nintendo. I'll message them if I have to.
That's right. And then to close it up, we've got just a bunch of questions from you guys. And you can ask us questions on, AJ, what's all the places? Discord, Twitter.
Discord, the community. I do community posts. You can go to the Fanatics for Twitter and ask us there.
Yeah.
We got all the things, all the stuff linked on our about page.
If
there's
shout
a
it loud
comment
enough.
section of some sort, you can ask us there. You can ask us in the comment section of this video, in fact.
Indeed.
If you're watching on YouTube.
Correct. Indeed. And the first one, for example, Charlotte McFall asks, or it says, I'd love to see the Diner/Wedding Dash/Cake Mania games on the Switch. What do you think the chances are for those?
I think that I wouldn't be surprised to see that. That definitely seems like one of the games where it's like, because Nintendo did mention that they would like to basically be Steam with what's on the eShop.
Yep.
And I'm reasonably sure that all of those games are on Steam. So I can see that happen on Switch. I don't know like a timeline on that or anything like that, but it wouldn't surprise me. I would say that there's hope out there for that somewhere.
I think it with those kinds of games too, because I hadn't heard of any of those, but I just looked them up to see kind of what they were. It seems like some of them are kind of either like older, like iPhone apps or Flash games or that kind of a style of game. I could be wrong on that for sure, but I think the big question, because like I was playing Peggle with some friends recently, and I think technically the last release was on Xbox 360 or something like that, and then EA did I don't know, something, doesn't even matter. But I think with those it kind of just depends on if they're kind of obscure older games that are just a lot of fun, if the team, like who owns them and do they have resources anymore is kind of just one of the questions, you know, because if it's one of those things,
a Nintendo DS port in 2007 for Diner Dash.
Well, there you go.
So there's hope. They like Nintendo.
Or they did 12 years ago.
In 2007.
But yeah, I think you're totally right. Those kinds of things definitely could happen. It's just a question for specific games, you know, are those companies, because they definitely see that there's you know, people that want to play indie games of various sorts or just small games or whatever, and have kind of those fun party game kind of things on there. So is it something that they have the resources to do? And if they do, probably they'll just do it at some point. Yep. So
TLDR, we don't know.
Exactly. Metaton Joe asks, how did AJ and Bob meet? And then following that, how did Logan and AJ meet? And then Patar35 also asks how you guys met Justin.
All right, so I'll go in chronological order because that's easier.
Yep.
I met Logan in 9th grade. We had the same bus stop. And like we used to like which I mean he's still like is really heavy into like music, but we used to like make music a lot together. I kind of fell out of that because it just was less interesting to me. Like people weren't making stuff that excited me as much as like, because that I'm just like a really collaborative person. So like me seeing other people making cool stuff makes me want to make stuff. People are making less cool stuff in music, so I'm less interested in that. But that's how I met Logan, and I really wanted to do a YouTube channel because I saw people like, you know, Game Theory, Peanut Butter Gamer, all that stuff, and I was like, yo, I can do that. And I tried to do it with my aunt, who some of you guys might have saw in the stream that we did was she in the Mario Party stream or was it just Smash Brothers? We did a Smash Brothers stream and she was there. We started that and she kind of fell out of it, and I was like, oh well, that sucks. And it's less interesting to do by myself, which I kind of like. I'd rather have a YouTube channel by myself now at this point, just because it's so hard to work with other people and be on the same page in that way. But Logan was like, yo, we can do it, and then we started the channel that way. I met Bob because we're both fans of Kinda Funny, who's like Greg Miller formerly. Colin Moriarty, people that used to work at IGN, Tim Geddes, Nick Scarpino, and they left and started their own YouTube channel or whatever, and they have a Facebook group that their fans are in and stuff like that, and me and Bob were in there. I have Submission Sunday or whatever, people post like stuff that they make, and Bob posted a video that he made in like, I don't know, like 2015, probably late 2015, because it was like around the time when we started our channel in earnest, like actually started uploading videos, not made the channel. So he made a video and I was like, hey, this video's cool. I was like, I have a channel too. You should check it out. And he checked it out, and then I think he requested me on Facebook, and then I added him, and then we just like progressively became friends. Where it was like, he also does graphic design work, and that was like the first time that I reached out to him, like to be like, hey, can you like, I'll pay you. Can you like make me some stuff for my YouTube channel because I wanted to rebrand it. I was like, okay. So we like, it was just like random stuff. Like I remember the Bayonetta DLC came out. And I messaged him, and this was before we were friends. Like now, I message Bob. We talk every day. We talk about dumb stuff. It doesn't even matter. But at that time, I accidentally messaged him because it was like more of like a professional thing. But I meant to message Logan, and I was like, "Yo, Bayonetta is broken." And it was like, oh yeah. It's like, and then you know, like we progressively just became more and more friends from there. Justin was a similar situation to Parker, where it was like just he just found our videos. And then he reached out to me and was like, hey, I do this, you know, like I make branding and stuff like that. And I think that your branding could use some work. We're not necessarily saying it was bad, right, but just being like, hey, refresh. He still is like constantly like, hey, we should refresh this. Like I remember he changed the directly to you branding like 3 times in the span of like 2 weeks. I'm like, all right, we got to chill out. We got to settle on something. So yeah, he just reached out to me with that and was like, hey, like I like what you guys are doing. I study like branding and marketing and stuff like that, and graphic design and all that good stuff, and I would like to contribute. And I was like, okay, cool. So that's how I met Justin.
There you go. Yeah, good stuff.
Yeah,
nice. I don't really have any follow-up questions. If I did, I'd ask them. But I'm glad you met all those people. You and Bob have met in person a couple times, right? At like some conferences,
like
or
conventions and stuff like that. Like whenever I'm in New York, I'm like, yo, Bob, I'm in New York. I forgot because I was in New York to go to our MCN Frederator. They had a party or whatever at their office, and I was there. And I told Bob, but it was around Comic-Con, so I don't think he remembered that I was going to go to New York. He was like, yo, didn't you tell me you were in New York? I was like, I'm sorry.
Yep.
But yeah, we'll go see Bob again at PAX East.
When's that?
March 28th through 31st.
So you'll just be playing Yoshi the whole time. Got it.
Yeah, just playing Yoshi the whole time.
Cool. Yeah, good stuff. The next question comes from Sir Boo Boo Poodleburger. What?
That's a name.
That sure is. You betcha. What do you think what do you think of the people proposing the idea of Super Mario Odyssey 2 in 2020, given the Galaxy Duo on the Wii?
I don't know. I think a lot of people are leaning towards that, where they're like, I think that they're going to, like you, for instance,
for example,
think that they're going to do like a sequel for Mario, but I just don't know if that's something that they have to do now.
Right.
Like, I think that Mario Galaxy 2 more so was out of, I'm not going to say necessity, but just like what was already established, what they were used to, you know, like 5 years ago, or even longer than that, like before DLC was a huge thing. New Super Luigi U would have been a whole new game,
right?
But it was DLC, you know. So it wouldn't surprise me if they were like, hey, here's this $40 expansion for Mario Odyssey versus a whole new game. I could equally see them do a Mario Odyssey 2. Whether or not it would be that soon, I don't know.
Yeah. So I think, having like a $40 expansion to me seems more likely than like a $20 expansion, only in the sense that like I think the amount of time that you wait increases what like quality or quantity or whatever would need to come out. Not would need to, but like kind of would be expected or whatever. So here's kind of just some ramblings of thoughts of why I think, I don't know about 2020, like you said, maybe not, but maybe so, I don't know. But the reasons why I think probably it would be that as opposed to DLC, and I'm totally fine being wrong, is that for the most part, it seems like Nintendo, especially with Mario, likes to use the same kind of formulas a couple of times. So like 3D Land came out on the 3DS, and then 3D World came out following that. We saw the same thing before that with Super Mario 64 into Super Mario Sunshine, sort of same kind of idea, but then Galaxy into Galaxy 2, New Super Mario Bros. Into Wii, into, 2 into new one.
I'd argue that Galaxy was kind of like what brought that to be a thing, because before that it was almost like they wanted to reinvent Mario all the time, like Super Mario, like the original one, or not even Super Mario Bros.
Right, yeah.
Into Super Mario Bros. Like those are two different games.
Totally, yeah.
And then like if we're not talking about like the Japanese, like
did you know that? I'm just kidding.
the whole thing.
I feel
like that. Those games are other, like not Lost Levels, but like you know, Mario USA, like that whole thing. Like that's vastly different from the first game.
Yep.
And then if you're talking about Super Mario Bros, that's very different. And then you go into the 64, very different. And then Sunshine, you know, like that whole thing.
Yep.
Really, the only time that they pursued the whole sequel thing was with Galaxy.
Yeah, no, for sure. The only time
even 3D Land and 3D World is kind of like I see those less like sequels and more like portable version and a console version of the same idea.
No, yeah, you're definitely right. They're not sequels of each other in any kind of the same way that Galaxy 1 and 2 are. I guess more just like that the same kind of concepts would be carried across rather. But I mean, they could either just not do that at all or do that differently or just do it this way. And then the other thing I think that's kind of a hint to me is it's in rumor-ish territory of that people had found, you know, stuff for Delfino Island and all that in Super Mario Odyssey, but then it didn't show up in the final game. So like seems like they cut it at some point. Whether it could very well be that they cut it because they started working on it and it just like didn't work out. And then they were just like, well, I guess we're not going to do Delfino Island, or they cut it so that they could use it again later. Which would make sense to me as well, just because like they, you know, if they realize like that's kind of another cash cow or whatever, is having that be one of the world's sort of like, you know, the 64 stuff was in.
See, that would be the reason why I would think that it would be an expansion rather than it being a whole new game.
Yep. So I think for me, it's just at this point, the time aspect of it is the only reason I would think that it's not just like regular DLC, but an expansion. I could see more where it's kind of like halfway between. It's like a 2 point or 1.5 or whatever, that kind of thing at that point. Because they could just do it as DLC, not have to have physical box stuff.
Like I could definitely see it being a Torna situation.
Yes,
like is this $40 like it could be bought as a standalone thing, but ultimately if you want to buy it and add it on the Odyssey, maybe you get a couple dollars off doing it that way, like that whole situation, rather than it being a full new $60 release. And I think that mostly what it feels like to me that they chalk the like the gap up to is just that they didn't originally plan to be that much into DLC, and then they saw how successful it was, and then they're like, oh wait, we gotta really double down on giving DLC to our bigger releases. And like the fact that they said that, like I'm not sure if Kimishima was still at the helm at this time, but there was one of the head people at Nintendo was like, hey man, we got to start doubling down on our content and giving our big releases DLC. And Mario Odyssey is like the biggest game, so that would make sense for them to give that DLC.
Yeah, I mean, no matter what, I can't imagine a way that we don't have more Mario Odyssey in some regard. It's just a question, I guess, of whether it would be $20 small DLC, $40 standalone-ish expansion, or a full-on sequel. And I'd lean towards the latter two rather than the first one. But I mean, I'd love any of those, so I don't care. I'd pay for all of them, and I'd play the heck out of it.
Same.
Yep.
I mean, any one of these scenarios wouldn't shock me. I wouldn't be surprised if they went the full game route. I wouldn't be surprised if they did $20 DLC, and I wouldn't be surprised if they did expansion. I think they all make equal sense for different reasons.
Yep, totally. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so great question, Sir Boo Boo Poodleburger. Great question indeed. Bebop asks.
Also great name.
Yeah, it's very fun.
It's a unique name.
That's for sure.
Never read that
somehow
name before.
It reminds me of, I watch Bob's Burgers, and it reminds me of that somehow, and I don't know why. But Bebop asks, what's your favorite video game YouTuber you like to watch other than yourself, and why?
Now it's different. Like before, I would say like easily Game Theory, but now I don't know. Now I don't know. I watch too many gaming YouTubers. the nepotism reason, I mean, the nepotism answer would be Bob Wolf,
right?
YouTube.com, Wolfden. I think Scott the Wise is really good. I think I mentioned Peanut Butter Gamer is really good. Like that whole crew, like the Hidden Block and like Normal Boots people, like all of them make really good stuff. But it's hard to like boil it down to like just one person, because I watch a lot of YouTube.
Yeah, no, for sure. Yeah, I mean, and for me, I could easily say Fanatics 4 just because I've only been part of you guys for like a week and a day.
So, yeah, like that would be fair. That would be fair.
But yeah, otherwise, I think so. Yeah, I really enjoy the Fanatics 4 stuff and have for a long time. Also, I think I really like, the community that you guys have is fun, and for that same reason, I really enjoy Spawn Wave and just that whole kind of the fact that both with you guys and the Wolf Den and Dan and stuff, you've got kind of multiple different YouTubers working together to kind of help promote each other and stuff. And so that's something that they do over with the Spawn Wave and Spawncast and stuff pretty well. So I just enjoy that whole thing and camaraderie and, helping each other out. And that's a lot of fun. And also just, gaming news is always fun and interesting. So that's me. Same. But yeah, good question, Bebop. One Peso asks, not Nintendo related, but what do you guys think of that sweet Resident Evil 2 remake coming soon, or its demo if you played it?
I haven't turned on my Xbox or my PlayStation in forever. Since I want to say November, like early November, like not early November, because Red Dead when did Red Dead come out?
Ooh, yeah, I think November.
Red Dead Redemption 2 release date.
November 23rd? No.
Oh, it was October.
It was?
Jesus,
oh, goodness.
Even longer than that.
Well,
October 26th.
Okay.
So I haven't played my Xbox or PlayStation since then. Because I remember I did turn on my Xbox because I wanted to play the Jump Force beta, and I played it, or alpha, or whatever. I don't know what it was. It was one of those two things. And I played a little bit of that, and then I was like, okay, I'm going to play Red Dead, because I remember I was playing my PlayStation in September because Spider-Man came out. And I was like, you know what? The new year, new me. At the end of the year, I'm going to play my PlayStation and Xbox more. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to play Spider-Man in September. That's Spider-Man's month. There's not really that much big Nintendo stuff this month, so Spider-Man, that's what I'm going to do. And I played that. That happened. Red Dead came out. Didn't really like it that much. So I put Spider-Man on the back burner for no reason. And I never came back to it. But I will eventually.
Yep.
Will eventually.
Yeah, I can't say I have any particular thoughts on it. I mean, it seems like from everything I'm hearing that it'll be really cool. The Resident Evil remake at that point.
Bob and Will are really excited about it.
Yeah, I haven't played any Resident Evil games.
More so Will.
I mean, like, yeah, I just haven't. So I really don't know. I can't say anything definitive about it other than people seem excited enough that it seems like it'll be pretty neat.
Hey, man, Will thinks it's a cool game, so I think it's a cool game too. You know what I mean?
Nepotism. Let's do the nepotism dance. All right, yeah. This is a quick and easy one. LSDRen2 asks, are you subscribed to Pewds, i.e. PewDiePie?
No, I'm sub to T-Series.
I'm sub to neither.
How dare you?
Like a pro.
Subscribe to T-Series. No, I'm joking. I guess I'm subscribed to PewDiePie. I don't know if he's responsible for that, but I don't really like watching like Let's Players as much as I used to. Like I used to watch like a lot of Game Grumps and stuff like that. And I still watch Game Grumps, but exclusively for 10-minute Power Hour. That's it. And I think I think PewDiePie is responsible for that.
Honestly,
because I don't.
Yeah. The only Let's Play stuff I watch is Mario Maker. That's literally it. Like, Ryukar and Grand Pooh Bear are two guys that play Mario Maker, and I enjoy watching those. And then besides that, don't watch Let's Plays like at all.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. Maybe streams are part of that too, and like being in streams and on streams and streaming makes watching streams from people that I don't know feel weird.
Yep.
Because I'm so used to like being a part of it, you know?
Yep. And especially, with the streamer that's that big too, that like you just can't, even people that I say this not having watched like any PewDiePie stuff at all, really. So I don't know if this is the case, but I assume with like him and Ninja and stuff like that, if somebody even donates and says stuff, he still won't necessarily be able to read and respond to it because there's so much stuff coming.
PewDiePie doesn't really do well, he streams sometimes, but like the stuff that I watch from PewDiePie is like he does like reaction videos and like reviews and stuff like that. I don't really watch like he's more of a vlogger now than he is a game person.
Gotcha. Yeah, I can't even say I've seen a whole video of his just ever. I think he was one of those that like when I heard about him, it was from like my boss's kid at an old job of mine. So it was like, and that was before I had any knowledge of YouTube gaming and all that kind of stuff. So I just was
so that was like probably around the time where I didn't pay attention to him, because when he was a Let's Player, I didn't like the whole PewDiePie Brofist, like all that stuff was like, okay, this isn't for me.
It just wasn't enticing at that point, but
yeah, but like he just, you know, got older and is like kind of more so makes fun of that whole side of it, you know,
which that's good. I appreciate that. So yeah, I'll maybe check him out at some point, but at this point, like I've also got a lot of other channels that I follow and stuff that's going on to where I don't really know if I need, you know,
too much.
And it's not like he needs the support, if we're being honest.
No, he does need the support. How dare you? We just talked about T-Series.
All right.
How dare you?
So that's that question. I didn't expect that to be more than like a 3-word answer each, but here we are. So here we go. Being alive. All right, and last but not least, this one came in the nick of time. Lethal with a 3 because he's Lee or whatever. Asks, what's your thoughts on how Nintendo is handling 2019? Here, there's a lot of questions in here. Do you want me to ask all of them and then we'll come back? Or
yes,
let's do that. Yeah.
No, let's address them as we go.
Alrighty, let's do it.
Stuff gets lost. so
what's your thoughts on how Nintendo is handling 2019
so far? I don't know. There's not enough information. It seems weirdly similar to last year, but we know a lot more about this year than we knew about last year at this time.
100%. Yes, that's pretty much what I was going to say too. Yeah, like a weird thing with 2018 versus 2019 felt like, whatever. At the beginning of 2018, it felt like we don't know anything, but like there's so many possibilities and everything's on the plate and everything's going to be great or whatever. I don't know. I just remember feeling really optimistic that it was going to be this packed year, which I mean, I know you guys did too, because was it your video or Logan video? That's
my video. Okay. Logan took my idea because we saw like at this point it's like that format and that like the thumbnail I think is a huge part of it too.
Right.
Like just how that thumbnail is set up, like that's a surefire like top video because it's now our #1 best performing video and the 2019 video is our #2 best performing video.
Yep.
So it's like that's just like 2020, expect another one of those. I'll probably make it this time. I just couldn't because I was making something else.
Yeah, so
I let Logan do it.
But yeah, no, for sure. I feel like there was just a lot of expectations and 2018 delivered in some ways, but then also let down in some other ways compared to 2017. I talked about this last week, but for myself personally, I felt like it was a great year. I had a lot of games to play and a lot of stuff was really fun, but it didn't feel overwhelming in the same sense that 2017 did, which is, I think, what we all kind of want, you know? And so the question now is, I don't know, do you think 2019 is going to feel overwhelming in that same way? Or is it just going to like kind of meet expectations? I don't know.
I think it's going to be more overwhelming in the sense of like being a content creator. Especially since like, I wasn't a Nintendo brand ambassador all of 2018.
Right.
I think the first game I got from Nintendo was like late April, early May, around that time. So I was like nearly halfway through the year. That was like I just wasn't really doing as many like playing game situations.
Right.
Like my videos were more about the conversation around playing games, not so much about playing them.
Right.
So I think in that way it'll be a lot busier. In terms of like what games I want to buy and like all that stuff. Like I was just as excited to play a lot of the ports that I missed out on as a lot of people are to play games that are like new to everybody. Because it's like I'm not going to pretend that the fact that Captain Toad was on Wii U is like changes the value of the game, because for me it was like just like it came out the day that it did, you know?
Yeah, right, exactly.
Like, I didn't play it, so just the knowledge that somebody else had it before I didn't really change the value of the game for me. So I think that the fact that a game like that came out and Donkey Kong and all that stuff, cool. I like that. I think that this year will feel different because there will be a lot more people that aren't like in that mode of like, oh, these are ports, so I'm not as excited.
Yeah.
You know? No,
yeah, for sure. That's a big thing. Here, he goes on to say, and I think this will just inform more of the conversation too, of there's a lot on the plate. Pokemon, Yoshi, possibly Animal Crossing. I'm pretty sure definitely Animal Crossing, but I don't know. Fire Emblem, and maybe a Mario title that's not a port. Do you agree with at least this point there is very little info? I mean,
yeah. I mean, we don't know anything. I doubt that we'll get a Mario game that's not a port. I think that at most we might get Mario Maker.
Right. Yeah, for sure. I mean, maybe a Mario sports game of some sort.
Yeah.
I could see that maybe happening. I don't know, Mario Golf or...
No comment.
Yeah. Mario. Rewind all those words. Yeah, no, but we definitely... I think pretty soon it seems like, I mean, again, still the rumors are that we'll have a direct in January, and I feel like that'll date out some of this year a little bit more. But at this point, there's promise of a lot of stuff, which I do think helps, because in 2018, I feel like it was either people on one side or the other of like either really excited, like it's going to be great, we don't know anything, but it's going to be like amazing, or like we don't even know anything, it's going to suck. So right now, we at least know a lot of really concrete, or a lot of things that are coming. We just don't know when.
Right.
Yeah. And the next question is, how would you space these games out?
Did we? Well, I haven't done that yet. I haven't talked about all of the games, or did I? I think I did. No. That was another one of those games that's like, I mean, videos where I outlined it, where it's like, I think the year is going to go like this, and I was like, I can't talk about the full year, and one video is going to be 50 minutes long. So I broke it up into multiple quarters. So I'll talk about that in that video.
Nice.
Look forward to Q2. But what do you think?
Yeah, well, I mean, I really like having visual. Actually, here we go. I'm really dumb. I like spreadsheets and stuff. I'm pulling up a spreadsheet right now that I made at the end of last year that has games dated roughly when I think they're going to be, and we'll find out. So some of these are the actual dates now that we know them. But New Super Mario Bros. Deluxe coming out now. Traffic Strikes Again coming out next week. So I think Metroid Prime Trilogy will be coming out at some point. I don't know. Like I said last week, it depends on if 4 comes out in 2019, then Metroid Prime Trilogy is going to be one of those, like, it's out in February or like April or something. So it'll be out really early. If Metroid Prime 4 is not out this year, then I think Metroid Prime Trilogy would be out more like probably August or so, maybe July. Yoshi comes out November or March 29th. I don't know where I got November from.
Yoshi would die in November.
Yeah, no kidding. Daemon X Machina I've got coming out April, which again, that could depend on some other things. Could also be I feel like it couldn't be February at this point, only just because if the direct had happened this week, then probably there would be enough time. But otherwise, there's just not really that much time for it to come out then. So, so probably Daemon X Machina in April, Fire Emblem towards the end of March or of May. Man, I'm terrible at saying what months are. Animal Crossing in August, which I totally skipped June and July there. So something would come out in June and July. And let's see, Town probably September. Even though
I would be shocked
if that came out that late.
If Town came up that close to Pokemon, I would be shocked.
No, I don't think I thought about that when I put this list together. So I think in that case, maybe Town will put in more like June or so. And then Luigi's Mansion, well, like we said last week, has got to come out around Halloween.
If it doesn't come out in October, I'm going to send a strongly worded email to somebody.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. So that, and then Pokemon Gen 8 in November. And then Metroid Prime and Bayonetta kind of question marks. I think Bayonetta for sure will come out this year, just because they wouldn't want it to be too far away from 1 and 2, maybe. I don't know. But I could see that coming out this year.
I think I talked about the Platinum Games thing in this video. Did I?
Nope.
No, I talked about it in the other video.
You sure didn't.
Okay, so no comment.
Yeah. So yeah, that's kind of what I'm thinking. I like to have visuals, so that's why I made this spreadsheet and stuff. But yeah, that's as far as release dates. That's probably what I'd guess. But who's to say? And then the last question that he asks, well, it's not a question so much as just they have a lot of potential to really take over some of the months with their titles. Yeah.
Yeah, I think this is going to be a big year for Nintendo. Last year was a big year for Nintendo in terms of sales. Like, I know, Izzy?
No Ray?
He put, and I was going to respond to it, but I didn't want to, like, be that. You know, I don't want to, like, I was going to tweet him, but like, nah. But he's like, in his description, because the main reason why I didn't address it, like, and tweet it at him is because he didn't say that in the video. It's just in his description. So it's like, I don't want to be that, you know? But he said something about the Switch's sales having a slump. And I'm like, no, they didn't. They literally just had their strongest quarter ever.
Yeah. And they're
So,
still, like, I mean, looking at the Japanese, at Media Creates and stuff, they're still... like it's like half of what it was in a Christmas season or whatever, but that's still like it's like 150 or 170,000 in a week, which is still a lot.
That's insane. That's insane. It's insane.
Yeah,
that is not a slump at all.
No, for sure. I can't even. I mean, I'm curious to see how this quarter goes for sure, because I think with Yoshi coming out so late, like they could have a bit of a slump in some regards, but it still wouldn't be it wouldn't be a bad quarter. It would just be like a kind of normal-ish quarter.
I think they could still coast on Smash Brothers and Pokemon for a while.
Especially seeing, I didn't put the Media Creates in our news to talk about or whatever, but just seeing how much all of the older, like the evergreen Nintendo Switch titles are up right now there too. Just goes to show there's so many new gamers that are just like, all right, finally Smash is out. I'm going to get it for Smash. And then now it's time to get all these other games. So no matter what, their software sales are going to stay up for sure for this quarter. And then I'd imagine their hardware sales will still be up pretty high for this stuff. And again, especially if anything else comes out in this quarter besides Yoshi, then, and I mean, like you said in your last time, is New Super Mario Bros. U that sells really well. So I don't know if it'll specifically sell consoles, but
I could definitely see it sell consoles. I think that it's another one of those games that's deceptively big.
Yeah.
Like I don't think that most like the people that are like, oh, it's only ports, you know, like that sort of thing. I don't think they would even think something like Mario Kart 8 would be as big as it is, because it's only a port, you know?
No, but it's huge.
But it's the second best-selling game on the platform.
It might even be the best by next, which we'll find out in like 20 days or whatever. But because I think this whole year it charted like faster than Mario Odyssey. Right. But so, I don't know.
Especially after that sale.
Yeah. Oh,
that
my
sale,
goodness.
So many Mario Karts.
Very good point.
Were purchased.
Yeah. So it's either that, I mean, if Smash could be that crazy that it's even higher than that, but I feel like Mario Kart's probably number one at this point.
Yeah. Like, I think Smash is comfortably somewhere in the top 3.
Yep.
Because I'm pretty sure we know that it sold at least 10 million by now. And Breath of the Wild is at 10.28. Breath of the Wild probably sold more, but I wouldn't put it at much higher than, like, in the best case scenario, being at 12 million. I could see maybe that, but I doubt it. It's probably closer to 11 million. I can see like Smash Brothers netting out to be between 12 and 13 by the time we get the numbers for that. I think Mario Odyssey will probably still be higher than it. I think that we could possibly see Mario Kart 8 take over Mario Odyssey. But I think ultimately, I think Smash Brothers is going to outsell Mario Kart 8 Deluxe by the end of this year.
Yeah, I could definitely see that. I mean, unless, even with DLC, I think, because if Mario Kart 8 gets even more DLC, then that could be something. And then depending on what bundles come out, I guess would be a thing to some degree too.
Yeah.
Because if they do the Mario Kart 8 bundles again, they'll probably just be neck and neck for a long time.
Right.
Because that's just, I mean, I think the reason that Mario Kart games sell so well a lot of other times has been like, cause they're in the like top 15 selling games ever kind of thing. But some of that is that they just like, they bundle them with the console at console price a lot of times too. Yeah. So even if it's not like, I mean, it's a super popular franchise, but if it's not for just the fact that it's the franchise, it's like, oh, well, I get a free game with this. And it's like, a good game too.
Yeah, it's like the closest thing that isn't Wii Sports that they have to Wii Sports.
Yeah.
It's one of those things that's like people will buy a console just to play this game.
And pretty soon, I'm guessing they'll probably bundle in New Super Mario Bros. U Deluxe just for the same exact reason. Not because it's a system exclusive or anything, because it's not, but just because that's the kind of game that's really easy to get people in the door with. They know people are going to want to pick up.
Right.
Yep. I'm very curious to see how this year goes.
It's interesting. We're in an interesting place.
Yep.
We'd be in a less interesting place if they did a direct.
Yeah, come on, Nintendo.
So that's why they didn't do it. They're like, hey, you know what? We want to make this year interesting.
Yeah, I still got if they announce a direct, I've still got predictions that I'm happy to talk about whenever that comes around. But we'll see if they end up.
We'll see
doing something. So, yeah.
Well, I was trying to like get us over the 2 hour mark. It doesn't look like that's going to happen. We're almost there though, so it's good enough.
Yep.
Thank you guys for listening to the 45th episode of Directly to You Fanatics 4 Podcast, our weekly Nintendo podcast that happens every week now, every single week.
Every single week.
Like, comment, and subscribe. Share it with your friends. Tell your dad to listen to it. I'm sure he likes Nintendo.
Yeah.
Okay,
I mean, everybody's dad is Reggie, right? So yeah, because everybody's heard from there. Yeah,
for sure, definitely. Okay, goodbye.